Fred and I did a movie together called The Over the Hill Gang Rides Again. And it was our first day of shooting, and he came up and introduced himself, and I instantly told him what a big fan I was and how when I was a kid, I'd wait for bed to go to sleep and I'd turn on the TV and find the old movie channel. And I would watch Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers films in black and white, and how much I loved them, and that a couple of weeks ago, they had run Gay Divorcee, but they cut out his song, Needle in a Haystack, which I particularly loved. Well, at the end of the shoot, he brought me his original sheet music signed,
Oh, wow.
Needle in a Haystack,
Yeah.
presented it as my going away gift,
Yeah.
and then later wrote me a beautiful letter about what it meant to him to have worked with me, and I was so touched.
Yeah.
It was really lovely.
What movie was Charles Nestor your father in?
He was in Playhouse 90.
Oh, okay.
I was a little bitty kid. I've done a lot more television than I have films. I've been in hundreds and hundreds of TV shows simply because I was a regular on the series Peyton Place, if anybody remembers that. And then before that, The Long Hot Summer, I was a regular on. And then the last series I did was a soap opera called Capital, which was on CBS. And I did that until that also boxed. Canceled, gone, done.
As you went through your career, there was a lot of beginnings and endings, for sure.
A great many, yes.
Yeah. How would you feel when you're on a show and it ended, or you were on a movie that didn't do as well?
It doesn't really matter because it's the work that means something to me and not the outcome. People ask me, some of my friends ask me, why don't you do this and why don't you do that and why are you doing an independent film and why? Because it's the work that I'm interested in, and I don't care how small it is. I lost a very powerful agency who was representing me because I wanted to be in QB7, which was the first miniseries. And they said if you do a role that small, then we're no longer going to represent you because we feel that it's a big mistake. And I said, okay, bye. Because there again, it's just the work. I like the actual work. Everything that goes along with it, I'm not overly fond of. But it's actually just, it's funny since I know you all probably feel that acting or the show business is artifice, but it really isn't because you're giving what is inside of you. And that way, when I leave and I'm not acting, I don't want to be around artificial people.
Right, absolutely.
At all. I like
you were
people.
certainly not one yourself.
Thank you.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that means a lot to me because that's what I can't tolerate. People always ask me how Sean was to work with. And Sean, what you see is what you get. He is an honest person. He's grumpy sometimes, and then he's not. But he doesn't pretend. He is without pretense, and that means something to me.
Sure, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
It's easier to be with honest people.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of that was a result of your upbringing?
No, not really.
Some experiences later?
Yeah. No, I was, unfortunately, since I was the baby of the family, I was the afterthought that they went, wait a minute, was there somebody else that was shorter? Oh, her, okay.
Was there a baby here a minute ago?
A baby? A baby? Where?
And how many siblings did you have?
Only Natalie.
Okay.
It was just me and Natalie. We had a half-sister who was born in China, but she was 18 years older than me and 10 years older than Natalie. And we never lived in the same city. She was married and gone on the day I was born. So I didn't really get to know her that much, that well, unfortunately.
And we had talked about how much Natalie was always a real powerful force in your life, and really still is now.
Yes,
is sort of
very much so.
Sort of a guardian angel in a lot of cases.
I think so, yes.
I do.
And
really helped you to become who you have been.
She was my mom. She was my best friend, plus being my sister. So it was everything. My free time was spent with Natalie. my social time, my social life was with Natalie. So it was Natalie, her friends over at her house, and the mischief we would get into.
Sure.
Because we did.
Yeah. Which one can only really imagine what that was like, right? I imagine that you have a lot of very fond memories of those days. Is there
I
anything
do.
in particular that stands out in the stories?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things. Natalie and I were sharing a beach house in Malibu, and a friend of hers had come over to have dinner, and then he had too much wine at the end of the night, and he fell asleep on the sofa, and we just left him there. And Natalie in the morning got lipstick and makeup and made him up completely, so when he woke up, he was like, had all this makeup on. And after he calmed down and washed his face, I had dart guns. Because I used to play dart gun games where if you get shot, you're out of the game, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, it was, at the time, it was a lot of fun. And I had this dart gun, and the three of us decided to take a walk along the beach. And I kept shooting David in the head, and he finally got mad at me and took away the gun. And we said, okay, fine, whatever. So he had this gun in his pocket, which was given to me by Bobby Darin, and it looked exactly like a real gun, but it was not, obviously. So anyway, David had this, and we kept walking. Then we decided it was time to stop walking. We were getting tired, and we passed a restaurant with a beach patio and stuff, and said, let's go in there and have a drink. The only way up was steps up to the bar. So we walked up there, the door's locked, so we're knocking on the door, and the bartender comes to the door, and we said, hi, we'd like to come in and order drinks. And he said, you have to come around the front, you can't come in this way. And we said, well, that's peachy keen, except we've been walking, and we can't get to the front of the restaurant because there isn't any beach access to the road and getting into the front of the restaurant. We would have to walk all the way back, a mile back to the house, get in a car, drive back, which we obviously didn't want to do. And he was relentless. He would not allow us in. And Natalie was getting mad. And we started down the stairs, and I said, David, get the gun. Well, the guy heard that and slammed the door and ran off. So we had an idea. We went as fast as we can, looking for a way to get to the beach access, beach road, this way, went through somebody's yard, got to a payphone. They had those in those days, but in case you forgot them, they're like,
I think we all probably remember them.
they're like these enclosed things, and there's an actual phone inside, just in case anybody's forgotten.
Every so often I find one, it's like you started a unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. But we found a payphone, and we had David call and say that he was with the Sheriff's Department in Malibu, and that there were 2 young women and a young man who were wanted for armed robbery in Malibu Canyon, and had he seen them, and that they'd best clear out the back, anything facing. He said, yes, they came to the back door, and he said, clear out the back of the restaurant, keep all of your patrons away from the glass windows, because we don't know what they're going to do. And then we laughed all the way home.
Yeah, those wood girls are not terrorized.
Yes, exactly.
With a gun given to you by
Bobby Darin, at his house,
He didn't recognize?
Who?
The person that came to the door didn't recognize him?
No.
That's great.
No.
And this was where?
Malibu.
In California?
Yes.
Yes.
In California.
That's my point. So.
Yeah, we've been walking along the beach and,
tousled
tousled hair and blue jeans and t-shirts and, barefoot. So.
How well did you know Bobby Darin?
I only met him about 3-4 times at his house for, get-togethers, parties.
What was your impression of him?
Well, I thought he was the most incredibly talented guy. He wasn't just a wonderful singer, but as an actor, wow. So I thought he was phenomenal. I didn't really say that I spent any time chatting with him or anything, because it was usually Natalie and I just getting to Mischief.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Bobby had a heart condition. He probably
Yes.
does. And he always, they had told him that he wouldn't live to be 18 years old, and that was always sort of the deal. It was a couple of years. So that was why he was so driven to do so many things. It's amazing to just think about the parties back then. Were you starstruck at all, or was it just?
No.
Yeah, I
These-
wouldn't have thought that you would be.
No,
Don't know you
these are all just people that act for a
would.
living, the
Maybe
same as
line of work.
the electrician
Yeah.
does electricity
Same
for a
line,
living, just does,
Yeah.
you know, it's, no, never. I was at a party one time at Jack Haley's house, whose dad was the Tin Man and Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And Jack produced a lot of television shows and things. And he came up to me and said, I understand, I've been told that you speak some French. I
Yeah.
said, yes. And he said, lovely. He said, Jacques Cousteau is here. We're having a lot of trouble. Would you come? I wouldn't meet him. I said, no. He was such a hero of mine
Yeah,
that I was terrified to meet him.
Yeah.
I said, I'm really sorry. I'd love to help out, but I just really can't, because
Yeah.
I would be devastated if he turned out to be anything less than exactly as I felt he was. So that's who I was starstruck by.
yeah.
Was
Was he wearing
Cousteau.
one of those hats?
yeah, entire helmet. Yeah, had a regulator in his mouth. It was very annoying.
Just walks
Had to
around.
take it out to, speak a few words of French. But other than that, great guy.
Yeah, that's really excellent.
No, I don't know.
So do you think that maybe was one of the most remarkable people in your estimation you encountered?
Certainly a remarkable person that I certainly admired.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a marine biologist
Yeah.
at one point,
Yeah.
but it seems that was not to be my life's path.
Well, you certainly have the lungs for it.
Yes, I do.
I couldn't resist.
I know. Can't let something like that go by.
Yeah.
Without seeing it. Never mind. Yeah. We'll drop it.
Yeah, we will.
Yes.
We'll keep on
So
moving.
you said you worked with Jack Lemmon,
Yes.
and I know your sister did as well.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies, The Great Race.
I love it.
But did y'all compare notes? What was he like? Was he the same to both of y'all?
Oh, I wouldn't know when I was 9 years old. What the heck do you know?
Oh,
Stand
that's
here,
true.
say these lines. Okay.
He's not going to be acting around you. I hope. It's
Yeah.
No, somebody asked me, or people ask me quite often, did I always want to be an actress? And I said, back then you do as you're told. I was very shy, I was very introverted, all I ever did was read and read and read. And I did as I was told. I was told that you're going to play this part, you're going to do this, here's your dialogue, go and learn it, and you have to pretend to be, and you say, okay, and you do your job. And that's it. So did I want to do it? I don't know. I just, and when I was told to hang up my clothes, I did that too. It was just sort of a natural thing. If you understand what I mean. It's like, your mom says, so therefore that's what you do.
It's really, I think that's one of the things what you just said, I think will be one of the things that I take away from this. When they told me to hang up the clothes, I did that too.
Yes, exactly.
Great. But you had a level of passion for it, on some level.
Well, I got to a point in school where I was, first of all, poked fun of. I was always very, very skinny. I used to drink weight on and thought if I ever got to 100 pounds, I would be the happiest person on earth.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that alone too. I used to be plenty, now I'm more than enough. But I was supposed to go on an interview after school. I wasn't having a great time in school. I was in and out and in and out and in and out, so I wasn't forming friendships. There wasn't a lot that I did. And I wanted to just be in school. I wanted to do the things that the other girls were doing, and I wanted to, whisper about boys and do all the same stuff. And so I went off to school like a good girl, but instead of going to school, I went to, there again, the dreaded payphone. And I called my sister in tears, and I said, I was supposed to go on an interview for a bad seat, I don't want to go, I don't want to act, I want to stay in school, blah, 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 blah. And she said, stay there, and we'll come and pick you up. So she actually sent her husband, Robert Wagner, and he picked me up. We went back to the house, and I stayed there for about a month. She tried to put me in different schools. I took entrance exams and thought of putting me in a school where I lived there. And then finally my mom relented and said she would not push me into acting anymore. And I could, come home and finish school, which is what I did, and it was wonderful. I went to football games and had a boyfriend and snuck cigarettes in the girls' room, and did all the things that you're supposed to do. So, yeah, and it wasn't until, are we running out of time? We okay?
No, we're really good.
Okay. It wasn't until I was working as a sales girl at a clothing boutique in Beverly Hills. Steve McQueen's wife came in,
Yeah,
Neil Adams, and said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm working, do you want a blouse?" And she said that a friend of hers, the OPEN director, Sean Penn's dad, was directing a Dr. Kildare, and that they were looking for a girl to play a 14-year-old, but she had to be over 18 because back then there were rules. Well, there still are, but they're a little bit more relaxed at this point in time. You had to be over 18 to work a full day. If you were 14, you could only work X amount of hours. That was not good for shooting schedules and cost the film company more money, etc. So she had to be over 18 but look 14, which I filled the bill. And she said, "Please go on the interview." And I said, "I don't want to." She goes, "I'll set it up for you. I'll get an interview for you. You can go and read the part and da-da." And she finally talked me into it. And I went and I read, and I got the part, much to my surprise, because I hadn't worked since I finished high school. After the first day's shoot, I was walking off the stage to my car on the lot, and it suddenly hit me. It is what I wanted to do. It is what I loved. It was something that was a part of me that I truly enjoyed. But it meant so much more because it was my decision and not a parent forcing you to do something, you know. And it wasn't that she was bad, my mom was bad in forcing me, because, let's face it, it does afford you a terrific life. I mean, to this day, I still have insurance, medical insurance. So that was a big plus, is now. But
does make all the difference when it gets to be, when it's your decision.
Very much so.
It makes all the difference.
Very, very much so. It does, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really remarkable that it was Neil Adams, because she seems to be great.
She's terrific. I really love her.
Yeah.
I just love her. She's great.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I met them, I gravitated towards Neil.
Yeah.
You know.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
You know, I've always thought that Steve McQueen's a favorite movie actor.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I would imagine that of the two, she's probably the easiest to get along with.
Yeah.
And sort of the most fun to talk to.
Well, you didn't also at the time make buddies with guys.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Very different.
And he was so busy with his Gauloise cigarettes,
Uh-huh.
chain smoking
All
away.
that kind of stuff.
But yeah, we shared the same director as Mark Rydell. Directed Steve in a film, and Mark Rydell was one of my directors on Long Hot Summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of director. Guy Hamilton was a great guy. I loved being around him and his wife, and telling stories and sitting up at the bar and chatting after working all day. But Mark Rydell literally guided you through every line.
Yeah.
And I was having difficulty with one section in the show, and he said, "Here," he gave me a dish rag.
Yeah.
It was at a bar,
Yeah.
and he said, "Just clean the bar top.
Yeah.
Really clean it. Just concentrate on doing that,
Yeah,
and tell me, say your lines." Made all the difference in the world,
Yeah.
because there was an intensity
Right.
that came through
Yeah.
with just the simplest direction.
Yeah.
One is an actor's director, and the other is an action director, and they're both very valuable, but just different type of directors.
Who do you think was the best director that you worked with?
I would say Mark Rydell.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Very good.
absolutely.
Do you think he also did the best performance at it?
Probably so. It was different.
Yeah.
It was different. There is such an age gap
Yeah.
that it's difficult to know, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Do you-
know.
do you
I can't judge. I can't judge my acting. I don't like to. I end up picking myself apart
Oh, sure.
like crazy.
Sure.
Why
you
didn't
have
I do
trouble
this?
watching yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't want to go. Oh.
Do you remember anything of John Ford?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. What,
Yes, I do. He terrified me.
Was everything you say, huh?
He spoke to me one time when I was to run up to the headstone in The Searchers, for those of you that don't know. And the dog follows me, and I'm supposed to say, Chris, go back. And he said, he came up to me after I'd done it a couple of times, and he said, can you bend over from the waist? I said, yes. And then, of course, I couldn't. You know, and it was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to bend in the waist. I just want to go home. Terrified me. But John Wayne was lovely to me. Always bribed me with candy, lozenges, and Jeffrey Hunter was wonderful to me. Got down on his heels to speak with me, be on the same level. Don't raise your hand.
Sorry.
Are you raising your
No,
hand?
I was-
You were scratching?
I was, sorry.
You're not allowed to scratch.
Stretching.
I'm starstruck, I get nervous, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm starting to hit you on the...
Just wait till you got the stuff.
I got struck by another star. Yeah, so it was lovely. Ward Bob was bitten by a scorpion on the set,
Oh, wow.
and they escorted me off really fast. Get the kid off the set!
Yeah,
Oh.
really? So you got stung by a scorpion?
Yeah. And it's funny because there's always a nurse
Yeah.
on every set, has to be. And all I can remember is they seriously were like hustling me off when they were working on sand
Yeah, that's
dunes.
serious stuff.
And I remember somebody saying, I've got a knife. They pulled out a knife. And I went, that's okay, I will leave. Yes, okay.
Now we understand.
I'm out of here. Yeah,
Now we
exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, various things like that. I remember Ken Curtis, who was adorable, sweet, very low-key guy. He was also in Gunsmoke, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ken Curtis. He would get a piece of wood, and he would whittle these incredible little animals in cars and things. He had this incredible talent. And every once in a while, he'd, hand one to me. But being the thoughtless child that I was forever, I was also on I never kept any of those things. I was also on a plane with Natalie one time when we were coming back from New York, and there was a bad snowstorm, and they kept de-icing the wings, and we kept waiting. And after we'd been sitting on the ground for about an hour and getting very buggy, the what is the socially acceptable term? The flight attendant came up to me and said, "Gentleman back there, I want you to have this." And I looked down, it was a hand-drawn picture of me, and it was signed Tony Bennett.
Oh,
So I turned around and I looked, and yeah, he's sitting like 2 rows down. I said, "Thank you."
It's been sort of bad.
You didn't know who he was.
He's a guy with a very large nose.
Well, now you have to admit that if that was not Tony Bennett and it was just some guy on the plane, that's kind of a creepy thing to do. But-
Yes, actually, actually.
Yeah.
It
It
is.
was for you,
Yes.
and it wasn't for Natalie? It was
No, it was of me.
for- Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Actually, if you think about it, who was he married to? Sid Charisse.
Yeah.
I think we're very similar.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're
Makes
very
a lot
similar.
of sense, yeah.
Or certainly back
So does
then.
that demonstrate how someone with celebrity can get away with things that other people might not?
Oh, particularly then. Don't forget, it was a different
Yeah,
time.
very different.
You know, I've been very upset at some of the things that have been going on now, simply because I adore being hugged. I love to get the director at the end of the day. You go up and you give him a hug, and you hug your hairdresser and the wardrobe stylist, and give him a kiss on the cheek, and I think
Hugs are great.
I'm very affectionate, and Hollywood people in general are. I know bad things go on,
Sure, certainly.
but I was never subjected to them.
Yeah.
I was under contract to a specific studio. I didn't try out for roles. I was told, there again, the studio becomes mommy. This is what you'll do, and hang up your clothes. So, I did a lot of television shows because I was under contract, and they wanted to make sure they weren't paying me without working me. God forbid, they should pay me for no reason, for a week. Oh. So I never had those problems, ever. I guess I was very fortunate, but I still think there's a line, going
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from, I mean, I think we maybe are all sort of alike in this, is that it's always good to sort of humanize people that are famous or
Uh-huh,
so there's sort of, I think we try not to put people on a pedestal too much, but at the same time, hearing stories of you and Tony Bennett, and your sister, and all these sorts of things, that was the most fun it seems like anybody ever could have had, because we don't get to have that fun.
Right. And to me, it was a guy who, they were,
Yeah,
he's a
it's
singer.
really
I'm like,
actually
okay, cool.
sort of the same stuff, it's just that you were traveling in those circles. And-
That's all I knew.
Right, exactly.
That's all I knew forever.
Yeah.
I remember David Hedison was a beau, and David and I went to Fred Siegel's, which was on Sunset Strip, very famous little place that sells clothing
Yeah.
and different kinds of jewelry. And David was trying on clothes, he was in one of the stalls, and I was looking at the jewelry, and I saw this tiny little gold spoon thing there with a loop on it. And I said to the girl, what is that? That's really cool. And she said, it's a Coke spoon. And I said, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, because it would take you forever to drink a Coke with that. And I was serious. That was one of the only times I was not making a joke.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Just happened.
There were not drugs around us.
Yeah.
The worst thing I think that we ever did is when we would go out to dinner, the restaurant would serve me wine, even though I was not 21 yet.
Right,
And that's because we went to the same restaurants all the time, me and Natalie, and, stealing wine at La Scala.
yeah.
Winter coat, put it behind you, and then when you go, you can stick a bottle of wine on there. And you got your coat wrapped up, you go, good night, thank you very much. And you got a bottle of wine. Yeah, it was Natalie and I used to giggle like crazy. What did you get? I was like, oh, that's great. We got so thrilled. And then we discovered that at the end of the month, the scholar would put it on Natalie's bill. They knew. They just went, oh, those two. Yeah, never mind.
That's so fun.
Took the fun out of it.
That's really
That's terrible to admit, I know.
Well, what occurs to me is that you say something fairly mind-blowing about every 10 or 15 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh dear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you agree, like, just these stories, where else are you going to get these stories,
Yes.
So you were talking about David Hedison. You were after the studio system with the signing dates, weren't you? Because
Yeah.
in the 30s and 40s, they would tell people to go out on dates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, they
So
never
They
did.
never do that.
I was a rebel, don't forget. I did nothing I was told if I didn't want to. I didn't go to premieres, I didn't go to openings. The only time I was a good girl is when they said, you've got to fly to Miami, we're sending you, here's your chaperone, because ABC wanted their show picked up. And I was on Paid in Place, and they wanted to make sure that they sent some key people to meet all of the affiliates and make nice, and I hope I did. I don't even remember. I remember going. I don't know if I made nice or not. But otherwise, I just didn't do any of that. I would come home and, as I've said before, one of the first things I would do as soon as they'd say, it's a wrap for the day, grab tissues and scrub off my makeup.
Yeah.
Drove me nuts, couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
So,
What were your experiences like on Paid in Place? Was it hard to have to keep up with that schedule?
No, it was, you're young, what do you do? No, it wasn't difficult at all, but the Paid in Place, there was Paid in Place on the set in front of the camera and behind the scenes, behind the camera, it was still Paid in Place.
Yeah.
My mother didn't want me watching.
Oh, really?
But I remember sneaking one, and the only thing I remember about it, there was a girl, maybe, I don't know. I was very young, rolling up a piece of paper to set a painting on fire, or something on fire. Do you remember that? I have no idea.
I have
And
a
they
terrible
said,
vision.
burn the house down?
I've never watched the show. And I did so many of them, that I don't recall everything
But I could
I've
never
done.
watch Paid in Place, but I could watch Dark Shadows all I wanted. I don't know
Oh,
what- you know.
well, that's what I said earlier when I was putting out my photos. I said, okay, I'll put, things over the nudes And, you know, if only it was an arm that was chopped off, you know, showing a lot of blood, that would be okay, but heaven forbid you see any part of the human body in a tasteful way. So that's the same thing. The vampires were okay. People falling in love was not okay. You know, so I don't know what to tell you.
It's funny you say that because if you haven't had a chance to check out Lana's table, boy howdy.
They're mostly gone. They're mostly gone.
Yeah. But that's exactly correct. You know, I go to a lot of conventions and I see, you know, grisly things.
Yeah, things I don't want to see.
Pictures and things as well as recreation.
Yes, yes.
And all of your photos are very tasteful.
Thank you.
We
Thank
talked
you.
about how great
And
they are.
beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I was thrilled when the photographer invited me over to see the stills and everything that they were printing up to use. I was delighted. I said, these are beautiful. And I know every once in a while someone will still say, you know, aren't you, how did you feel? I said, I think they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Why should I feel embarrassed or, you know, I think I was fortunate to have Mario Casilli and I, you know, it was all just a very pleasant, professional experience.
Yeah. And Mario, he specialized in that. He was the guy that
He
did
only did celebrities for Playboy magazine. Yeah.
Was it a one-day shoot? Was it over?
Yeah, it was one day. It was one day. He did call me about almost a year later and said that he got a request to please reshoot to put pictures in a new photo essay. And I said, nah, you know, did it the one time, that's enough, but thank you. And he said, okay, he said, we can either pay you for a new reshoot or we can use the same photos. And I said, okay, what time do you want me over? Okay, let's see, I've got Friday free.
Yeah.
So I did do a reshoot, and it's funny because I don't think they ever used them, but my heart wasn't in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, well, here you can sort of see through this dress, I'll wear that. I mean, because I didn't want to anymore. It was like that. I did that, and now I'm done, and I'm moving along. So I don't know.
But money talks.
Yeah. Well, really? Yeah. I've been supporting myself since I've gotten out of school.
Yeah.
It was just me. There was no living at home. There was nobody footing any kind of bill. So, and it remained that way my entire life. You know. So, yes, I have to work. Shocked. I'm sure none of you have to, so it's, you know, you don't understand. But please try.
You know, you guys, you have no idea how hard it is to be a Lana Wood. But there's truth to that. It's hard to be anybody. You know, it's challenges for anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's interesting, just the entire film industry. Natalie used to get very upset. Natalie was in therapy for over 17 years and remained in therapy. But she used to say to me, I never know if a man likes me for me or if he likes me because I'm Natalie Wood.
Yeah, it's true.
And well, you say it's true, but there's another side to that. She is Natalie Wood.
Yeah.
That is who you are. So, I mean, I could say the same thing. Oh, does somebody like me because I'm
It's
Lana?
the idea of Natalie Wood.
It's, well, but if you spoke with her, you would know, you know, the kind of genuine person that she was. And, but you can't separate Natalie Wood as just an actress. You know, that's part of who you are. It's like my daughter used to get mad at me. Now my grandchildren get mad at me. You're going to do a film? How long are you going to be gone? What are we going to do? And I go, oh my golly, you guys will live. It'll be okay. They don't want me. Why can't you just sit at home and bake cookies? I said, because that's not who I am. And I stink and hate baking. You know, I bake nothing. But they would prefer that. But that's not who I am.
Yeah.
I need that film to latch onto, to work with. I need to explore that character, that part of my personality in that character. It's just, it's wonderful for me. I think it's like someone who writes or paints. It's just something that you must do, you
Yeah.
want to do.
Well, the aspect of it, the therapeutic aspect, and, you know, I obviously never met your sister, but I was always very taken by the fact that it seemed like she was working through things.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And I really think that everyone should see therapists.
Oh, I do
There
too.
should be,
There's
you know,
some bizarre stigma about it. No, it's not easy. It's not somebody saying, oh, you poor thing, here, this is
Yeah.
how you fix it, you know. It's someone who is asking you to really examine yourself and your motives and the outcomes of your actions.
Yes.
Owning those outcomes, owning what you have done, and being a better person who is more aware.
From an
It's
objective
very difficult. My daughter used to say to me, because for a while there, I had a stupid accident. I stepped off a curb. Don't ever do it.
Yeah, you had mentioned yesterday.
And I got 8 screws and 2 plates in my leg. I broke fibula, tibia, and my ankle, and dislocated it all at once. Because I feel like, you know, you're gonna do something, you gotta do it all the way.
Yeah, you did.
So I did, I went for it. But my daughter was driving me to my therapist. And one day I said, gee, I don't know if I feel like going, and the thing, and she said, I don't know why you go, because you always walk out of there looking like you've been in tears. I said, you don't go to be happy.
Yeah.
You go there, and I said, sometimes it's very painful to re-examine something that you've done and a part of your life. And these are painful things. And I said, yeah, I cry a lot in there.
Yeah.
But I also feel that I'm making headway in being a better person. And that's everybody's goal. You know, you want to be a
Or should
good
be.
person. Or should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
From an objective source, which is hard to get, especially if you're
Oh,
famous.
please.
Yeah.
Very hard. Because we're all subjective
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
No such thing.
So Lana Wood and I agree. You should see a therapist.
Therapy!
Yeah,
Therapy!
it's good for you. It's good for you. How much do you think that you have changed as a person from those days to this day?
Enormously.
Yeah.
Enormously. I'm not the same person I was
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
My viewpoint, my experiences were narrow.
Yeah.
I knew very few things. There are a lot of things that I can still remain untouched. It's like, you know, why did I do that?
Yeah.
But no, I changed
Yeah.
a great deal. I was also very introverted, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm unsure and dealing with the battle of the big sister,
Yeah.
you know, who
Certainly.
was on a different path than I was.
Yeah.
Natalie loved every second of being an actress, a celebrity, a star.
Yeah.
She loved getting all dollied up and going to premieres and going to all the important functions, and she worried about every word that came out of her mouth. I would come over, we'd be going to the dermatologist, because at the time it was like, well, he scrapes your skin, and then you have this beautiful skin, and this and that, and come on, you gotta go and try it.
Yeah.
And I would come over with a scrubbed face, because I was gonna go to a dermatologist, and I'd have my skin scraped. Natalie would be in full makeup, beautifully dressed. I'd say, what are you doing? Now you'd have to go in, she would have to wash her face, have the treatment, and then put all her makeup on again to go outside. And I went, wow. But she said, I owe it to the fans that love me.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of pressure. And it really, that was difficult. If you always feel you have to be a certain way. And to the point where she was so accustomed to reading a script and being that person at that time, she was asked to do her very first talk show was Merv Griffin's show. And she called me in a panic and said, I don't know what to do. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? I said, just relax. Just don't worry about it. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I said, he'll ask you questions. She said, but I don't know what he's going to ask me, and I don't know if I will be able to say anything, and I don't know, and then I'll worry about if I say something, is it going to be taken the wrong way? And I said, wow. I don't know, have a glass of wine and go on the show. She called me afterward, and I said, okay, how did it go? And she said, great. I said, I knew it would be fine. She said, no, you don't understand. She said, I went out there and pretended I was you.
What a wonderful.
It was, yeah.
That's so
It
good.
was. And I was like,
That is so
wow.
good.
didn't feel the boundaries that she did,
Yeah.
you know? Because I didn't want to be a star, I just wanted to do the work
Yeah, sometimes big sister can learn things from the little sister.
sometimes, but it was very flattering. I was like,
Yeah. What do you
Wow.
think that may have been the nicest thing anyone ever said?
"That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said." Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely, because it was also from the heart
Yeah.
and showed a great deal of how she was feeling and how she was dealing with
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Wow, what an impressive duality. You know?
Yeah.
That's really something.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time. I heard that maybe you were were you in one of those James Bond movies?
Since I don't watch anything I've done, it's quite possible.
You may have.
I may have,
You may
I
have.
don't know.
You may have.
As I said on camera, because there I am again, but saying whatever comes to mind, I said if I had only known that this film would follow me for the rest of my life, I would have tried harder in the role. And it was a joke, and nobody got it.
Yeah,
But it was then run as part of the awards ceremony
sure.
for the Oscars, at the Oscar
Can't be the
cast.
Oscars either.
Oh, well.
What were your, was that a positive experience for you on the set, all that stuff?
Oh, very much so. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was a little nervous. I didn't really like doing the love scene.
Yeah,
That didn't thrill me. I didn't mind so much being thrown off a stuntman's shoulders into
Yeah.
a pool, although I gotta tell you, 16 feet is a long way to fall.
It is.
It seriously is. I was like, wow, okay, I'm still falling.
Yeah.
No, I'm still falling.
Yeah.
And then I had to redo it, which meant dry the hair,
Yeah.
patch up the makeup,
Wow.
dry the panties. I remember being called, the first time it was aired, I got a call from the network, from ABC,
Yeah.
saying, oh, we're doing a show, we're just so thrilled this is going to be on the air, and we would like to quote you. How do you feel about the fact that the censors have put a bra on you on the show? And I said, are you serious? I said, ask me how I feel about the Iran war.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, I really don't care what they paint on me,
Yeah.
or why. I said, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Quote that. I was surprised. Yeah,
You're okay.
I don't know what to say.
All right. Yeah.
Paint on a bra and give me different color panties, super duper.
Yeah.
This is not what's important in life. I know you all think it is, but it's really not. Yeah.
So that wasn't a stunt.
That was not a stunt woman.
Yeah.
That was not a stunt woman. And as I said in the other panel that I did, the only technical parts that were really well choreographed and taken care of was when I'm dead and they tie my ankles to a cement block in the pool. They accomplished that by tying my ankles to a cement block in the pool. So that was a camera trick. That was not swell. I disliked that about as much as the love scene. No, hated the love scene even more.
Yeah. And then was that just down to the nervousness of just doing it?
Yeah, it was just, I felt that it was too intimate. I didn't want it to be on camera.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you found your way through.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a funny story to tell on myself,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's too much. Like,
Anybody have recording devices?
anything.
Turn them off. Is that recording?
Oh, is
I
it?
think-
No, I mean,
it's not mine,
it's
it's
not
the-
anything
Oh,
off
okay.
color or anything
The
like
video,
that.
right.
It's just that,
It's
you
your
know,
prerogative. We will
during,
defend your honor.
okay, thank you. During the filming of Thumbs Are Forever, I knew Sean before I started filming. So we were acquaintances before that. I was very comfortable with him on and on. And we began having an affair. Therefore, I was very nervous doing the love scene because I felt I was showing a part of myself that I should not.
Right.
So that made me very
Almost
nervous.
better if it wasn't someone.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's, much, much better.
Yeah.
But the funny part is that at the end of the filming in Las Vegas, my part was done, and I felt I should speak to Sean. So I pulled him aside and I said, Sean, I gotta tell you that I think you're absolutely wonderful and that I absolutely adore you. But I have a steady fellow that I've been with for 4 years now that I'm very much in love with. I, can't continue our relationship. Years later, something came up and I thought about that and I went, why did I think he'd care? He walked away going, I mean, that was so silly of me. It's why did I think that I had to do that? I think that was, I think I thought a bit too much of myself at that time.
Well, I don't know,
I
who's to say?
had to tell him the truth.
It's kind of hard to believe
I'm going with someone.
that he wouldn't have had.
Broken-hearted.
I'm sorry, yes, right, broken
He
heart.
was broken-hearted.
Yeah, it's not hard to imagine that he could have fallen in love with Lana Wood.
Oh.
Right?
I don't know.
I think we've all fallen in love with
Numbers, no.
I gave you mine, right?
Okay, yes, I have yours. I got your number.
Yeah, there you go. More ways than one.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Well, Lana, it's been a real delight.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you very, very much.
It's been a wonderful weekend. We still have a little bit of stuff left. We're in the final stretch. So
Yes.
You're going to hang out, some people can still
I'm going to hang out.
And go and see the photos that are still there of Lana's. If you haven't, because they really are something.
And come back here at 2:30 to see our play.
Oh, yeah, you're going to do a play.
The Lana Theater Company.
What do
I've
you...
got to go to the airport
Yes, I know.
at 4. I'm kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, 4. Thank you, guys. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
In case you didn't know. Oh, thank you. See, I got that.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'm sorry, I left mine.
Here's your
Ate all
bag.
candy.
This
Left
is
a
your bag?
wrapper. You'd think I was
You guys
my
do-
grandson.
You guys do very well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You're doing a lot of fun.